People of the Purple Butterfly here, otherwise known as People7 on Twitter and YouTube, People elsewhere on the internet. And my blog is located purplebutterfly-people.blogspot.com. And as you can tell, I'm still putting in my Brazilian knots. I've come to talk to you about a couple of things you could do to make the process easier. First, the thread. If you can't find BT Brazilian weaving elastic thread or a suitable elastic thread at Sally's or, well, don't even bother with Sally's, try Amazon or, Walmart in the sewing section or whatever, just go ahead and use your weaving thread. Okay, if you're using weaving thread, start braiding. Do a micro braid type thing about quarter inch up from the root, and then you're basically going to follow the procedure as tightly as possible to anchor the attached hair to your hair. So even at that point, I take and I go to the end of the knot and I comb out my hair to blend it in. Okay, another thing, let's get that out the way. Another thing you might want to consider is a separator or riser. If you are familiar with microlink extensions or fusion extensions and you already know about this product, it looks like this. There's a little hole in it. And it costs about $7 and it's usually only this big. Well, this came from an old cup of buttery spread with calcium from Kroger's, in other words, artificial butter. I cut a line to the center where there was actually a little bump from where they created the plastic surface for the lid, and then I just rounded it off into a hole like that. Now what this does is keeps hair tends to be friendly, especially when you're dealing with locks and braids. Oh, and also make like a little divot in the bottom so that way it'll work easier getting stuff on. But you just literally go like this. I'm going to do it the other way so you can see it easier. See that? And then I'm going to take one of my mini clips, which I have everywhere, and I'm going to clip it into place. Now that gives you a surface you can work on where you don't have to worry about snags from migrating strands from other braids or whatever. So then when you go to work on attaching the extension to the hair, you don't have to worry about hair from two braids over getting into place or whatever. Plus, if you need to push down to lock it in place, you can. Because the only thing that's in your process now is that one braid. Okay. I like to split the hair every now and then, make sure everything's all nice and even. That gives a more congruent look. Also, by the way, nobody ever said that all your Brazilian knots had to be right at the roots. They can be, half inch to an inch away, especially depending on where you're putting them and what's your process. Like if you're only using it to add extension to the back, and you're not going to be combing through it and putting it up and all that, then you can put them like this far down or whatever. It's not going to matter. That keeps the fill at your root natural without the pulling effect. Like, hey, I made some real tight braids here. You don't have to worry about that. That's nothing the riser does. It keeps everything from being too tight. So then when you go to put the thread on, and I'm going to attach this kind of like a crochet braid. Now, that clip is too small. I want the one that makes it hang. What did I do with it? I stuck it over there. Ta-da. Now, let me show you the trick about this. When you're going through this and you're pulling it tight, so forth and so on, that automatically makes it kind of like sink down to the base right here. So then you can push it down and line them up in the perfect uniform little circles. And I don't always do 10 to 20 rounds like most directions say, because I am not using elastic thread. It is not going to smush itself down into that configuration. But this is something I do when it's time to anchor. I go like this. I'm holding over here. I pull over here. That makes a loop. Then I pull it like that. See that? Then I pull the loop out. And then the thread that was embedded by the process on this hair, which apparently got caught by the clip, which is fine, because now I know exactly where it is. Okay. Reclip that. Reclip that. And now I have my two strands that I can just tie the knot with. And that gives me enough time to make a couple of knots and show you how to remove the riser. Some people call it a separator. There is an actual name for the product on the internet for a site that, uses it, but I don't remember what it is. Okay, now I'm going to take the clip out. I'm going to come through. Ta-da. Then I take this clip out, which you don't need, but it'll move around if you don't. And then you take your hair right through the middle of that split, and it comes out. And look, I can move it in any direction because no hair from the other twist and braid migrated into that one. So that gives it a nice, comfortable, I can put this in a ponytail. The braid here, well, let me take this loose, so that way you can see. This braid is all Brazilian knots. And if you look real close, you can see my gray so far so on, but you can't see the Brazilian knot. So give it a try. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And stay blessed. Bye now.